Okay, Rabbi Say, we're on DAF Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. Eluhein ma'amados, it's the fourth line of the Gemara. Lefi shenemar tzav es b'nei Yisrael v'chulei. We're quoting from the Mishnah. The Mishnah had said, this is an explanation of the ma'amados. And as we'll see in just a moment, the Gemara is a little bit concerned about the language of the Mishnah, because normally if you would have said Eluhein, this is such and such and such, you would have expected immediately to launch into an explanation of the protocol of that particular system or that particular halacha. But instead, the Mishnah says that it's based on a pasuk of Tzavis B'nei Yisrael, that Hashem wants the Jewish people to bring this carbon, and how could it be that a person brings a carbon but is not there present when his carbon is being brought? And that's the reason for the institution of ma'amados. So instead of answering the what, the Mishnah answers the why, and that's unusual. So the Gemara says, "Mai ka'amar." So what's going on over here? What does the Mishnah mean to say? Hachi ka'amar, Eluhein ma'amados, u'matam tiknu ma'amados. So really the way you have to read it is as follows. The Mishnah is going to tell us that these are the ma'amados, this is the what of the ma'amados. But before I get to the what, I want to tell you the why. Why did Chazal, or why did the Nevi'im, as we'll see, institute this concept of different shifts of Jews being present both in Yerushalayim and in their respective sectors for the offering of the karbanos? Because Hashem says that on a daily basis, I want you to bring me the korban tamid as a nation. How can a person or a party bring a korban without being present when it's being brought? So hiskinu neviim harishonim esrim be'arba mishmaros. And it is on that basis that our early prophets instituted the concept of 24 mishmaros, 24 sectors or shifts of people. Al kol mishmar u'mishmar hayama'amad b'Yerushalayim shel kohanim v'shel levim v'shel Yisraelim. And for each sector within Eretz Yisrael, they instituted that there should be a corresponding shift or delegation of Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim present in the Beis HaMikdash when all of the communal karbanos are being brought. Higiyaz man mishmar la'alos Kohanim u'Leviim olim liYerushalayim. And as the Mishnah had said, that when it comes time for that sector to be called up, the Kohanim and Leviim from that sector, let's say we gave the example yesterday of the Haifa sector, the Kohanim and Leviim from Haifa would go up and they would work in the temple, and the Yisraelim would stay in Haifa, go into their synagogues, and have a special prayer service, while you would have a delegation of Yisraelim living in Yerushalayim who would go to the Beis HaMikdash and represent all of Klal Yisrael by the korban. Tanu Rabbana, Esrim v'arba'a mishmaros hayu be'eretz Yisrael, u'shtei misrei b'Yericho. So now the Brisa tells us that there were 24 sectors throughout Eretz Yisrael and 12 in Jericho. So the Gemara says, shtei misrei b'Yericho nafishan lehutuva. So you're telling me there's an additional 12 for a total of 36 sectors? That's too many, because we know that there's only 24, as we'll see from the Psukim. So the Gemara says, Ela shtei misrei mehen b'Yericho. But rather what it means is that 12 out of the 24 were in Yericho. Now, what does that mean? So the Bryce is going to clarify what that means in just a second. Higiyazman hamishmar lalos. So when it came time, for example, the Haifa sector to be called up to active duty, Chatzi hamishmar hayaola me'eretz Yisrael liYerushalayim, v'chatzi hamishmar hayaola liYericho. That's Rashi's girsa. So half of the Haifa Kohanim and Leviim would go to Yerushalayim, and the other half would go to Yericho. That's at least the way it seems the correct girsa is according to the way.
That means from.
I know, but the girsa is changed. We changed the girsa to le Yericho. The other half would go to Yericho. And why were they going to Yericho? Kedei sheyasafku ma'imumazon la'acheim shebi Yerushalayim, in order to provide provisions to their brethren in Jerusalem. The way that Rashi seems to be learning is that you'd have half of the people that were called up for active duty actually not working in the Beis HaMikdash. They would go to Yericho, a nearby city to Yerushalayim, and make sandwiches for the rest of the for the rest of the people that were in Yerushalayim who were working.
That was their active duty.
That was their active duty. They were working in the kitchen while and someone told me this morning that he saw in one of the footnotes that they would actually switch off 3 days you guys work and then 3 days we'll work. But it's unclear from the Gemara that was the case, but someone told me that they saw this
in the Meiri.
In a note. The Meiri says this? Okay, very good.
This would take an amazing amount of organization and central structure.
Yeah, it's amazing that Jews could accomplish this, huh? Yeah. All right. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Kohanim Ulavim v'Yisraelim ma'akvenes hakorban. That Shmuel says that you need all three representations there while a korban is being brought, Kohanim, Levim, and Yisraelim. And if you're missing any one of those types of Jews, so then the korban is not valid. And b'masnisa tana, Reb Shimon ben Elazar, oimer Kohanim u'Levim v'Yisraelim uchlei shir ma'akvenes hakorban. I'm just reading according to the Girsa change. The Brisa says that you need not only Kohanim, Levim, and Yisraelim, but you also need the playing of musical instruments in order for the korban to be valid. B'maika miflagi, what's the machlokes? Mar savar ikar shira b'peh, or mar savar ikar shira b'chli. So we saw this machlokes at the end of Maseches Sukkah. The machlokes is, what is a necessary component of song, which is the halacha that you need to have song playing when a korban is being brought. Is the mainstay of song instrumentals, or is it vocals? So if it's vocals, then musical instruments are only an accompaniment, and therefore if they're not present, it's not ma'akev, it doesn't prevent the efficacy of the korban. But if you say, like Rabbi Suddenly would like to suggest, that instrumentals are the mainstay of any musical performance, so then without the musical instruments, right? Yeah, or say Machlokas Peter because of his son, and Jacob and Rabbi Suddenly. All right, you guys will slug it out. Amar Rav Chama Bar Guria Amar Rav Moshe Tikin Lehem LiYisrael Shemona Mishmaros Arba'a Me'alazar Arba'a Me'isamar. So the Brisa tells us the historical context of these 24 sectors. I had told you yesterday that it's Bayis Sheni. I made a mistake. It goes all the way back to Bayis Rishon, to the Nevi'im, these 24 sectors. But we'll see that it evolved. Originally, Moshe Rabbeinu had set up 8 sectors, 8 shifts of Kohanim and Leviim and Yisraelim to be present in the Mishkan while the Korbanos were being brought. Now, as far as the Kohanic portion of it, he set up 8 sectors among the Kohanim and 4 shifts from Elazar's children and 4 shifts from Itamar's children. Ba Shmuel v'hamidan al sheish esrei. By the time we get to Shmuel Hanavi, which is several hundred years later, we have more people, so we have to expand those shifts to 16. Ba David v'hamidan al esrim v'arba. And then, well into David HaMelech's reign, the Jewish people are really up to speed, and so now we have to divide it into 24. So it was by David HaMelech's time that there was a division of 24 sectors. Shenemar, and how do we know this? Or this is sort of like a pasuk to indicate it, that it says Bishnas ha'arba'im l'malchus David nidrashu v'yimosevem giborei chayel b'yazir Gilad. Then in the 40th year of David's reign, you already had a huge populace of mighty warriors in Yazir Gilad, which is indicative of the fact that the Jewish people were at their robust state, in their heyday. So Meisvei. So now let's raise a contradiction. You're telling me that it evolved from 8, then to 16, then to 24, but this Brisa indicates otherwise. Moshe tiken lem liYisrael shmona mishmaros arba'a me'alazar va'arba'a mi'samar. That Moshe originally instituted 8 shifts, 4 from Elazar's family and 4 from Itamar for the Kohanim, but David and Shmuel v'hamidim al esrim va'arba. And then David and Shmuel jointly came along and expanded the 8 to 24. Shenamar, as it says in the pasuk, that in the very same Divrei Hayamim, but a different perek, it says, Hema Yasad David and Shmuel haroeh be'emunasa. That these were instituted by David and Shmuel jointly, Shmuel being the overseer of their work. So the Gemara's question is, you previously told me that it went from 8, then to 16 in the times of Shmuel, then to 24 a few years later in David's time. But in this price, it seems like it's jumping directly from 8 to 24. So how do you reconcile that? So Hachi Kamar, so you explain the Bryce as follows. Miyasodo shel David u'Shmuel haramasi ha'amidum al esrin va'arba. That this Bryce is saying that eventually, through the efforts of Shmuel and David collectively, the shifts eventually evolved to 24. But it's not detailing the fact that in Shmuel's time it went from 8 to 16. It's just telling you that eventually, through the efforts of Shmuel first and then David, it eventually grew to 24. Tanya Idach, now we have another Brisa, which tells us a little bit differently as far as Moshe Rabbeinu. The previous Brisa told us that Moshe Rabbeinu started with 8. And Moshe tiken lam Yisrael sheish esrei mishmaros, shmona me'elazar, shmona me'isamar. That this Brisa says that no, Moshe originally had set up 16 shifts of Kohanim, 8 from Elazar's family and 8 from Isamar's family. V'chesharabu b'nei Elazar al b'nei Isamar cholkom v'hamidam al esrim va'arba. But then what happened was that that Elazar's family grew much more rapidly than Itamar's family. Itamar's family grew very little, and Elazar's family doubled in size. And so therefore the 16 eventually grew to 24, because Elazar's family expanded from 8 to 16. Isamar's family stayed stagnant at 8, and 16 plus 8 is 24. Shenemar vayimtsu b'nei Elazar rabim l'rashei hagevarim min b'nei Isamar. Vayichalkum livnei Elazar rashim leveis avos shisha asar, v'livnei Isamar leveis avosam shmona. And this is exactly what the pasuk in Divrei Hayomim says, that it turns out that the descendants of Elazar were much more numerous than the sons of Isamar, and so therefore they divided up the families of Elazar into 16 shifts, and to the family of Isamar into 8 shifts. Va'omer, and then another pasuk in that same chapter says, base of echad achuz le'elazar, that each head of household was for the family of Elazar, ve'achuz achuz lisamar, and each head of household for the family of Isamar. Mai va'omer, what do you need to bring me the second pasuk? What does that add to the information? V'chi tema ki heichid nefishi b'nei Elazar hachanami nefishi b'nei Isamar shmona mi'ikara arba havu tashma base of echad achuz le'elazar ve'achuz achuz le'isamar. Because you might have thought that perhaps originally Isamar had started with 4 shifts and eventually had expanded to 8. Maybe the way it worked originally was that Elazar was always larger than Isamar, and Elazar started with 8 and Isamar started with 4, and just like Elazar was doubled from 8 to 16, Isamar was doubled from 4 to 8. And it's not that Elazar outpaced Isamar in growth, but they both grew in the same ratio, or right? Proportionally, right. So the Gemara says no. That's why you have this pasuk. The language of achuz li'isamar implies that they remain stagnant, that they remain the same. They did not grow in the same way that Elazar grew.
I don't know if this is coincidental, but Elazar is P9 from Itamar. Wasn't he the older?
Yes, but he's not a Bechor.
Oh,
Elazar's not a Bechor because Nadav and Avihu were the Bechoros, right? So, but yeah, I don't. It's not clear. The Gemara doesn't tell us why, what Zechus Elazar had to multiply twice as much. But there must have been something that, some Zechus that they had to multiply much more rapidly. So that's why I need the second pasuk to tell you that they both started off as 8. Elazar doubled and Isamar remained the same. So the Gemara now says to Yufta de Rav Chama bar Guria. But this latter brisa, which tells us that Moshe originally set up 16 shifts, is a contradiction to Rav Chama bar Guria, who says that Moshe originally set up 8 shifts. So the Gemara answers, Amar Lacha Rav Chama bar Guria, Tanoi, V'anadarmi ki haitana da'amar shmona. He says, yeah, but that I was citing a brisa. So the previous brisa lists Moshe starting 8. So I hold like that Tana of that previous brisa. It's machlokas Tanoim, whether it was originally 8 or originally 16. Tana Rabban. Now let's look about another interesting aspect about the Mishmaros that existed in the Second Temple era. Arba'a Mishmaros alu min hagola ve'eluhein. There were 4 shifts that came with Ezra. 4 out of the 24 Kohanic families came with Ezra to rebuild the temple, to build the Second Temple.
Tax family, is that what that means?
Well, the heads of those families, I guess, brought their families, whoever came with them, they brought with them. But there were 24 Mishmaros originally, 24 Kohanic families that were divided up in the 24 sectors, and only 4 of those Kohanic families came up with Ezra to rebuild the temple. Ve'elu hein Yedaya, Charim, Pashchor, ve'emar. Those were the names of the families. So Amdu Neviim Shebeinehem. So remember, when Ezra came to build the temple, there was still Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi were still alive. And so V'chilkum ve'hemidum al esrim ve'arba. So what they did is that they said, you know what? Even though you're only 4 families out of the 24, we're going to split each one of you up so that you'll be the new 24 sectors. In other words, we're going to reject the other guys because they didn't come up to build the temple. So you guys get to take their portion and you're the new 24. So Balulum Vinasnum Bekalfi, and basically what they did is that they took 24 names of the old 24 sectors. They put them all in a box like for lotteries. So Yedaya, one of the 4, comes along and he takes 6 pieces of parchment, his own chelek and 5 other pieces, and those are his sectors. And Charim did the same. And the same with the other 2, Pashchor and Imar. These are, by the way, very interesting names. They sound either like Babylonian or Persian names, which is very unusual. V'chein hisnu neviim shebenehem sha'afilu Yehoyariv rosh mishmaros ola lo yidcha yedaya mimakomo ela yedaya ikar v'Yehoyariv tafelo. And the rabbis at that time made a rule. They said, because we're going to penalize the people who were lackadaisical in coming back to build the temple. And so therefore, if, let's say, the family of Yehoyariv, which was the number 1 mishmar in Bayis Rishon, they were like the first sector, the most chashuv of Kohanic family. But since they didn't come back right away with Ezra, they said, you know what, if Yehoyariv afterwards wants to come, they're the Johnny-come-lately, so we're not going to give them the same covet as we gave them before. What we'll do is, since Yedaya has 6 sectors now, we'll give Yehoyariv one of Yedaya's 6 sectors, but he's going to be tafel. He'll be ancillary now to Yedaya's mega group, right? In other words, you'll be just one of Yedaya's 6 sectors. We'll let your family participate, but guys are not as chashuv as you used to be since you didn't come up. Okay, the Yisrael Sheba Oso Mishmar Miskansin Be'areim V'Karim B'Maisa Bereshis. Now we go on to the next part of the Mishnah, which explains the protocol. Let's say the Jews of Haifa, they would all gather, the Yisraelim would gather in their synagogues, and they would read the Torah during the week of their Mishmar. And what would they read? So Shacharis and Mincha and Ne'ilah, they would read from the Torah from the first chapter of Bereshis, the story of Maisa Bereshis, the story of creation. So Minahani Mili, where do we get this from? Like what's the connection? Amar Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha, Amar Rav Asi, Ilmoli Ma'amodos Lo Niskaimu Shamayim Va'aretz. The answer is very simple, that without the Jews representing their karbanos, heaven and earth could not endure. In other words, really what it means is that without the sacrificial service in general, heaven and earth will not stand. The world endures because the Jewish people are offering karbanos to atone for their sins, and as a result, the Jewish people can remain, and through the existence of the Jewish people, the world can continue to exist. So in the final analysis, it is through the karbanos that the world has substance and existence, and therefore, in order to represent that, we read from the story of creation to represent the fact that the karbanos are a contributor to the act of creation. Shenamar, as it says, Vayomer Hashem Elokim b'mo'eda ki irashana. So how do we know this? Because Avram Avinu was promised in Parshas Lech Lecha, Hashem promised him that I'm going to give you a huge progeny, and I'm going to give you the land of Israel. So Avram says to Hashem, b'mo'eda, how do I know I'm going to inherit this? Which is seemingly a chutzpah question. Sounds like it's a heretical question. How can you speak to God and say, how do I know? If God says you're going to get it, what more guarantee do you need? So Amar Avraham, Ribono Shel Olam, Shema Yisrael Chotin Lefanecha, Ata Oselahem Kedor Hamabul Chedor Haflaga. So Avram's concern was as follows: I believe you're going to give me Eretz Yisrael, but what if my children sin? You'll wipe them out, just like you wiped out other populations. You wiped out the generation of the flood, you wiped out the generation of the dispersal, right? So Amar Le Lav. So Hashem said to him, no, that's never going to happen. I'll never completely wipe out the Jewish people. So Amar Lefanav Ribbono Shalom Hodi'eni B'mo'i Roshena. So Hashem, show me what will the Jewish people be able to invoke in order to be able to have their grace, in order to have a saving grace to save them from utter annihilation. So Amar Li Kechali Egla Mishuleshes Veiz Mishuleshes Vayal Mishulash, etc. That's where God does the bris bein habesarim, the animal parts that represent the covenant, which is Amar Lefanav Ribbono Shalom Tenach Bizman Shebeis Hamikdash Kayim. Bizman Shein Beis Hamikdash Kayim Ma'atehei Aleim. So really what Hashem was showing Avram through the bris bein habesarim, through the animal parts, is that the animal sacrifices will atone for their sins so that they'll always endure. So Avram turns to Hashem and he says, that's all well and good when you have a temple, when we have a temple. But after the temple's destroyed, how are the Jewish people going to save themselves from utter annihilation? Amar lo kavar tikanti lahem seder karbanos bisman shekarin bahen lefanai mala ani alehem kilu hikruvim lefanai vani mocha lahem al kol avonosehem. That's why Hashem, I give you the portion of the davening called karbanos, the part that so many people skip, right? It's what's the purpose of karbanos? When you read the karbanos and you understand what you're saying, Hashem says it's as if you brought the carbon before me. Which is why it's very important not to skip karbanos. It's important to say karbanos. It's important to at least say even when you're rushed for time, at least say the parshas hatamid, at least say the daily tamid sacrifice, so that you have that zechus of having brought the carbon tamid on a daily basis. So you should understand what you're doing.
Tefillah itself is not part of that?
No. There's an integral difference between tefillah and the recital of the karbanos. By tefillah, even if you don't understand what you're saying, there's a certain benefit, a metaphysical benefit to tefillah. Karbanos, you have to actually understand what you're saying in order for it to have efficacy. Hashem says, when you say the words and you understand them, I give you credit as if you've offered the Bizman Shekorin Bahen Lefanai. That when you read the Seder HaKarbanos before me, then it's as if you offered those karbanos. Now it's true in a generic sense, Rabbi Black, that Unashalma Farim Sefasenu, that tefillah in general is the surrogate for karbanos, but not the specific karbanos. Specific karban tamid, specific karban chata, specific karban asham. Those you actually have to recite if you want the efficacy of that karban.
Rabbi, you're right. God used to always complain Karbanos said the first thing is to get sacrificed.
That's a good line. That's a good line. Yeah. Tanu Rabbana. Tanu Rabbana. Brisa says, Anshe Mishmar hayu mispalin al korban acheim sheyiskabel beratzon, va'anshe maimed miskansin lebeis hakneses v'yoshvim dalatanios. So the Brisa now tells us further. He says the Anshe Mishmar, some say it's reversed, the Anshe Maimed. The words Mishmar and Maimed are a little bit ambiguous when you apply which. They both really mean the same thing. Ma'amad means the people who are standing over the carbon, at least that's the way it's sometimes used. And Mishmar means the people of the sector. So the Anshe Ma'amad were the people standing in the Beis HaMikdash, over the carbon, the Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim. These people would daven while the carbon is being brought, that please Hashem accept the carbon. The people of the Mishmar who were in Haifa, in the shul in Haifa, and in various different sectors, so they would be davening more generically. They would be fasting and davening for the welfare of Klal Yisrael more generically. B'sheni, b'Shabbos, b'shlishi, b'revi'u, v'chamishi. And they would fast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. B'sheni al yordei hayam. On Monday, they would daven for seafarers. Hashem, please protect all those people who are traveling by water. Now, what's the connection? Because on Monday, God divides between the upper waters and the lower waters. So this is water day, right? So therefore, daven for the people who are in the water. Bashlish el holchei midbaros. On Tuesday, they would daven for desert travelers, because what happened on the third day of creation? Hashem creates or exposes dry land. So therefore, protect the people who are traveling on dry land. Baravi al askara shalotipal alatinokos. On Wednesday, they would daven for children not to get diphtheria, not to get the crop or the croup or whatever it's called. And this was because like Rashi says in Chumash, that Wednesday is a day that is propitious, unfortunately, for this kind of disease. And it's because it has to do with the mazalos, it has to do with the constellations, that sometimes diseases spread. And like the pasuk says, Yehi ma'oros, that God said, let there be luminaries in the sky. The word ma'oros is spelled without the vav, so it could also be read as me'eros. It could be read as curses or diseases. So that there's a connection between the constellations that were created on the fourth day and human disease. B'chamishi al ubros umenikos, ubros shelo yapilo menikos she'aniku es b'neihem. On Thursday, they would daven for pregnant women and nursing women. They would daven that pregnant women should not miscarry, and they would daven that nursing women should always have enough milk supply. And the reason why there's a connection to Thursday is because this is the day of being fruitful and multiplying. This is the first time Hashem says pru or vu to the fish and to the birds. So this is the time of swarming and procreation. Uve'erev Shabbos lo hayu mis'anim mipnei kavod haShabbos kal v'chomer b'Shabbos atzma. On Friday they wouldn't fast because you want to enter Shabbos in an honorable way, not starving. And surely they would not fast on Shabbos itself. Be'echad b'Shabbos my time alo. Why didn't they fast on Sunday? Now the Mishnah had given us a reason. The Mishnah had said because of the stark contrast between the rich foods that you eat on Shabbos, you shouldn't fast right away afterwards on Sunday. But the Amoraim are going to give us additional reasons. Amar Rabbi Yochanan mipnei hanotzrim. Rabbi Yochanan says it's because of the Christians. Now what does that mean? Because the Christians have Sunday as their Sabbath, as their holy day. If we fast on that day, they're going to want to kill us because it's going to look like we're mocking their holy day and making it into a day of mourning. That's the way the censored version of Rashi explains it. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani Omar b'pnei shehu shlishi liyitzira. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani says that Sunday is the third day of man's existence, of man's creation. Man was created on Friday, and so Sunday is the weakest day of the week for mankind. Why? Because when we talk about having a procedure done, the third day of the procedure is the time when you're the weakest. We know that from Bris Milah, right? When it says by the people of Shechem, after they were circumcised, the third day they were the weakest. So what's the most major surgical procedure that Adam Arishon had? His creation. Since he was created on Friday, the third day from his creation is Sunday, and therefore it's the day that he's weakest.
He was born with a wrist?
No. The procedure was his creation, not his circumcision. Right? If just the procedure on one organ weakens you, then certainly having your whole body worked on to be created is a much more major procedure. Right?
But wasn't that immersion created like mamish right before Shabbos?
Fine, but it's the fake that counts. If he was created on Friday. Reish Lakish Amar Mipnei Neshama Yisera. Reish Lakish says it's because of the Neshama Yisera that's lost on Motzoi Shabbos, creates a chalish in man. The Amar Reish Lakish Neshama Yisera nitno mo ba'adam be'erev Shabbos, b'Motzoi Shabbos not lenoso mimenu. Shenamar Shavas v'yinafash. So it says that the Neshama Yisera, the additional soul that man is imbued with on Erev Shabbos, right before Shabbos comes in, is taken away from him right after Shabbos. As it says that on the seventh day, God rested and was ensouled, so to speak. Kevin Sheshavas Vai of the Nefesh. But the way you read the word Vayinafash is that once Shabbos is over and you've finished your resting, Vai, woe, that the Nefesh, the Neshama Yisera, has left. Okay, we go weiter.
With our docha a fast, let's say that's supposed to be falling out on Shabbos, a docha to Sunday, how come they weren't docha to Monday based on this?
That's a very good question. Apparently this argument is not as compelling as the Friday argument. When we have a Taanis that falls out on Shabbos, we don't push it to Friday, we push it to Thursday. Because of the compelling argument that you don't want to enter into Shabbos starving, right? But this argument of you don't want to create too much of a problem with Sunday fasts for any of these reasons, apparently that was never compelling enough to make a fast not on a Sunday. It's a good hara. It's a good question. Next, Bayom Arishon Bereshis V'Yehi Rakia. Now let's talk about the actual Torah reading that they did on each one of these days. So we said on the first day they read the first two paragraphs of the Torah, Bereshis Bara Elokim, and then Yehi Rakia, which is the second day of creation. So Tana Bereshis B'Shnayim Yehi Rakia Be'echad. And the Bryce explains that since the first paragraph is longer than the second paragraph, and you have three aliyahs, so you had the Kohen and Levi split up the first paragraph, and the Yisrael would read from the second paragraph. So the Gemara says, Bishlam yehi rakia be'echad tlas psukei havim. Ela bereishis b'shnayim amai he psukei havyan. But I can understand the Yisrael taking the second paragraph, that's 3 psukim, that's enough for an aliyah. But the first paragraph of Bereshis Baroy Elokim Es Hashemayim V'Asaretz is only 5 psukim long. So how can you have the Kohen and the Levi split a parsha that's only 5 psukim long? The Hatanya Hakori B'Torah Al Yivchos Megimel Psukim. Don't we have a general rule that when you get an aliyah, you have to read at least 3 psukim? How can you have 2 guys, each needing 3 psukim, share a portion of 5 psukim? The math does, it's not going to work out. So the Gemara says, Rav Amar Doilegu Shmuel Amar Posek. Famous Machloikes, we'll see in Maseches Megillah as well. Rav says that what you do is you have the Kohen read psukim Aleph, Beis, and Gimel, and you have the Levi read psukim Gimel, Daled, and Hey. That's the way you'll do it. So Pasuk Gimel will be read both by the Kohen and by the Levi. When do we do this? Rosh Chodesh. Those of you who know the system of laning on Rosh Chodesh know that the first paragraph by the Ber Hashem al Moshe Limor Tzabis B'nei Yisrael V'Amarta Lehem is 5 psukim long. You need to get a Kohen and a Levi in. So the Kohen reads the first 3 psukim, and then the Levi commences with Pasuk Gimel. V'Amarta Alehem Zeho Yisher Asher Takrivu Lashem. Okay, and he reads psukim Daled Hey, Gimel Daled and Hey. So Shmuel Amar Posek. Shmuel disagrees, however. We don't paskin like Shmuel. Shmuel says the Kohen will read the first 2.5 psukim. He'll stop at the Esnachta in Pasuk Gimel, and then the Levi will read the second half of the pasuk and then psukim Daled and Hey. The Rav Amar Doileg, my time alo Amar Posek. Why doesn't Rav agree with Shmuel and just say just read 2.5? So Kasavar Kol Psukah Lo Paske Moshe and Lo Paskinan Lei. Very simple. If Moshe Rabbeinu gave it to us as a whole pasuk, we don't have a right to cut it in half. We have to read the whole pasuk or nothing. Ushmuel Amar Posek Umi Paskinan. So Shmuel says you cut the third pasuk in half. Since what right do you have to do that? V'hamar Rabbi Chanina Kara Tsa'ar Gadol Hayali Eitzel Rabbi Chanina Hagadol. There was a man whose name was Rabbi Chanina Kara, to distinguish him from the normative Rabbi Chanina. He was a teacher of small children. He used to teach Chumash to small children. That's why he was called Kara. He used to recite the psukim. And I had a lot of anguish, says Rabbi Chanina Kara, in order to be able to get a heter from my Rebbe, Rabbi Chanina, to permit me, the only heter that he gave me to ever cut a pasuk in half and not recite the whole pasuk was in order to teach children. Because in order to teach children how to memorize the pasuk, you have to break down the pasuk into smaller parts. But that was the only time that he ever gave me a heter to break a pasuk in half. Otherwise, you don't have a right to break a pasuk in half. So how could Shmuel break the pasuk in half? Ushmuel hasam time amai mishum de lo efsher hachanami lo efsher. Shmuel's response is, what was the heter that Rabbi Chanina gave over there? Because there's no other option. You got to teach the children. So here too, there's no other option. You need to have 3 psukim each in a parsha that's only 5 psukim long. So that's another, also a justification to cut pasuk Gimel into 2 parts. Ushmuel Amar Posek, my time alo Amar Doileg. So Shmuel, who says you cut the pasuk in half, why doesn't he use Rav's solution? Have the Kohen read Aleph, Beis, and Gimel, and have the Levi read Gimel, Daled, and Hey. So the Gemara answer is Gzera Mishum HaNichnasim, Gzera Mishum HaYotzim. The Gemara gives a very simple answer, and it's because of people who are going to be walking in and out of shul. So let's just explain. First of all, you know that you're not allowed to walk in and out of shul during Kriyas HaTorah, but bein gavra legavra, but between aliyahs, you are allowed to walk in and out of shul if there's a need. So the way it's going to work is like this. The Kohen has just finished his aliyah, and a guy walks out of shul at that point. If the Kohen has just read Aleph, Beis, and Gimel, now why is he walking out of shul at that point? He's got to go make Kiddush, I don't know. But he's just read Psukim, Aleph, Beis, and Gimel. Right. I don't. He just read Psukim, Aleph, Beis, and Gimel, right? And he sees that there's only 2 Psukim left in the Parsha. See, he's going to think that the next guy is just going to get an aliyah of 2 Psukim, and he's going to think that you're allowed to get an aliyah of 2 Psukim, which is going to create an error in people's minds that an aliyah does not have to be 3 Psukim long. Now think about it the other way. Let's say a guy walks in right after the Kohen's aliyah, and he sees or I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's fine.
right.
And he sees the Levi get three over here.
He's right. He sees the Levi get 3 aliyahs, get 3 psukim for his aliyah. See, he's going to think that the Kohen only lane 2 psukim, and again, it's going to be the same kind of erroneous conclusion that an aliyah is allowed to be 2 psukim long. So that's the reason why Shmuel says you're never allowed to do the system of 3 and then have the guy back up 1 and do another 3. Because it's going to create, the image is going to be, the perception of the crowd walking in and leaving is going to be erroneous, and it's going to create problems for Klal Yisrael in the future. We'll hold it here for today. Have a wonderful day.
I don't understand your reason. I thought it was supposed to be cursed. So how come they think?
What you